Okay, Justin, James Parker, how's it going, mate? Thanks for sending me your swing. And yeah, I mean, much like your dad, you've got a great action. You know, you both look like you really know what you're doing. Nice balance, good tempo to the move. Keep your head nice and steady. Balance on that left foot when you finish. But there's a few things going on, and with regards to you know, just explaining it all. Let's do it this way. So, I mean, setup not bad. Again, I think the same as your dad, you have a tendency to reach for it with your arms. Okay, so maybe have your arms a little bit closer to your body. And then as we start moving, again, a little inside with the club head, not as drastic as your dad though. You know, you're more on plane at the top there. As we come down, again, same as your dad, a little bit on the inside, right? And then what tends to happen is there's that flippy action with your hands, right? So there's a sequencing issue with regards to your arms, your hands, and the club head. Basically, what's happening is your club head is getting ahead of your hands way too soon, right? And very, very similar to your dad, your shaft comes out above your left shoulder, whereas we actually want it coming out underneath your left shoulder. So if you think about the handle and your hands on the golf club, you know, you're just coming out, you're just swinging it, and it's going sort of up this way, whereas we want them coming round this way more. All right. So you're going to hit a lot of, you know, at a guess, you're going to, I mean, that one kind of started out straight, didn't it? But with just what's going on with this club face, you know, you're going to hit a lot of snap hooks. You know, it's very handsy, and your miss, I'm guessing, is going to be more to the left than off to the right. Okay, so from this angle, so we know one of the big sort of issues is what's going on with your hands through the shot, right there. So how many times did I mention hands? Just so you know, straight away, you know, when we're talking about hands and how the hands control the handle controls the club and the club face. You know, what I'm saying with regards to your grip is your left hand is very strong, which means it's wrapped away from the target too much, right? And your right hand is very strong. Okay, so think about it like this: when you form that line in your thumbs, right? When you put your hands on, you should be forming a little line in between your thumb and your forefinger, right? Well, your line in your left thumb is going well outside your right shoulder. And also the line in this thumb looks as though it's just pointing up here, right? Also outside your right shoulder. Now, when you pull a pro up, and let's pull someone like Justin Rose up and zoom in on his grip, what you tend to find is the line in his left thumb is going to be going just to the right of his chin, and the line in his right thumb, again, is going just to the right of his chin. Okay, so that's a better way to understand how to put your hands on, I think, because your hands are just wrapped over way too much, mate, right? And therefore it's going to affect how you control the club, all right? So let's look at the differences here between Justin Rose, got one of the best golf swings in the world. Start from the bottom. So his toes are more flared out than you, right? So I want you to point your toes out a little bit more. So I want your toes sort of out here and out here. And then with regards to how you're moving, well, that bit there, and you know, you only hit an iron, it looks like maybe, 8 irons, 7 irons, something like that. So that bit there, right, looks as though your hands have moved so far away from your body but your body has done very little turning, hasn't it? Right, so you've got all this width here, and maybe someone's told you, maybe your dad's told you, or somebody else, you've got to try and get width. You've got to try and get your hands as far away from your body as you can. But when you look at the best players in the world, I mean, does that look as though he's kind of making an effort to achieve lots of width? No. So in the same position, you can see he's only got, his hands are only that far outside of his right thigh, whereas your hands are considerably more, right? But the kicker is, you've got your hands there, and you've got your arms there, without turning your body. Alright, so let's go a little bit further, and we'll stop him there, and we'll stop you there. And you can see at this point how much he's turned his hips, how much he's turned his shoulders, as opposed to how much you've turned your hips and how much you've turned your shoulders. So you're lacking in a lot of body turn, right? We're not rotating properly, basically, right? Lots of width, right, with your hands and your arms, but your body isn't working properly. We need our body turning a lot more in our takeaway, alright? It all starts in this first bit, all starts in this takeaway. So if the top of the club's going to be moving, right, I want your shoulders turning and I want your hips turning. There. Right, you see how his hips and his shoulders are turning in conjunction with swinging the handle. Whereas what I'm seeing with you is the handle's moving, but it's very, very static in the hips. And I think the hips are the root cause of the problem. I think if you can get your hips turning more, then your upper body is going to be able to turn more. I think your hips are very static. And then you kind of eventually complete the move getting up to the top, right? Then you make a nice, you definitely thrust the hips, but in much way the same as your dad, your left knee, I would like to see your left knee get out there more. You see how your hip is kind of leading your left knee? Well, if we get up to the top with the correct sort of lower body action, so with the right leg straightened a little bit, the left knee is flexed a little bit. When he starts down, watch how he's still got some of this flex in his knee there, right? You see that? Whereas what I'm seeing with you is your hips are kind of just leading your left knee. So I'd like to see a little bit more sort of action with that left knee going towards the target a bit more, right? But nevertheless, the most important thing is getting your hips moving forward, which is what you're doing, right? But then as we're coming down, you keep your lag nicely there. But like we picked up at the start with regards to your hands and how you've got your hands placed on the club, look how much the club face has already rotated just after impact here. So you see the position of the club face. So already your club face has rotated. Yeah, not just there. So your club face is already pointing over here, and you've only just hit the ball. Right? So how you put your hands on is so important. You see Justin Rose comes down, shafts leaning forward, right? But just after impact here, I mean, his club face now is maybe pointing over here somewhere. So can you see the difference in the club face there? And that's all to do with very similar to what your dad was doing with regards to throwing this right hand too much, releasing that right hand. So you see just after impact here, where you've got a flat right wrist. Well, just after impact, what you find is the pros have still got a bent right wrist. Okay, so at impact, we've got to come down. We want a flat left wrist and a bent right wrist. And even just after impact there, that right wrist is still bent, even though the club head is releasing. Okay. An even better example would be Tiger. So as he comes down, and look how this is a great example of the left knee. Watch his left knee, and you'll understand what I was just talking about. So you see it's moving more laterally, just sitting and planting into his left side more. But you can see at impact there, or just after impact, he's still got this bent right hand, bent right wrist. Okay, whereas you're flipping it a little bit. Okay, and you can see just how much you flipped it here because of how upright the shaft is now. Right, you look at his position when you right arm's in the same position, right? Maybe just past horizontal. Look at the difference in the shaft angles. You get it? So there's just too much flip going on with the club head, both you and your dad, right? So I want you to focus less on swinging the club head, but more on focusing what you're doing with your hands and the handle, right? I want you to focus on this bit rather than swinging the club head, because I think that's really kind of letting you down a little bit. Yeah, there. All right, bud? But just for starters, I would work a lot on setting up to it, toes pointing out, right? We've got to change your grip, that's important. You've got a way too strong grip. So we've got to change your grip, make it more neutral, right? Think of how neutral Justin Rose's grip is, as opposed to yours. And then I would work on takeaway, right? I want you to focus on your right hip moving back behind you this way. We don't want to keep your hips static, don't want to keep your shoulders static whilst your hands and the club are moving, right? Everything works together. If his hands are working, his hips are going to be turning and his shoulders are going to be turning. Right? It all has to be one movement, one swinging action with the handle. Alright, bud? So if you can get that takeaway right, think a lot of the other stuff, change your grip, a lot of the other stuff would fall into place as well. Alright, buddy, good stuff. Again, lots of reps, just like your dad. It's not going to happen overnight, right? Nothing happens overnight, but you've got to say to yourself, right, what sort of numbers do I want to be shooting on the golf course next month or in 2 months or a little bit further down the line? Well, if you want to navigate the ball around the course a little bit better, we've got to control what we're doing with this club. So we need our hands on the club better. We need to understand that we need more body turn in the takeaway and also less space here, right? Don't try and feel as though you have to get this right arm so wide. You look at his right arm here, it's just nice and tucked close to his body, right? You look at his elbow compared to your elbow. There compared to that, that's different, right? So it's almost like a good idea would be put a glove under your right arm, and we don't want all this space here. So less space, more focus on body turn and rotation, and I think that will really help you. And then obviously with your hands on the club better, as we're coming through, I want you to focus less on swinging the club head, right, flipping the club head, and more on moving your hands around your body. More focus on what your hands are doing, right? So Let me explain that a little bit more just before I finish. When you come through, put a model up. And again, I'll pull, well, no, what I'll do is I'll pull Tiger up. I'll pull Tiger up. So watch Tiger just after impact here. So watch where his hands are going, right? Watch where his hands are going. Hands are moving left around him, right? If his hands are moving left, this club comes out underneath his left shoulder. Now what you're doing is, because there's so much flip with your hands there, you see how the shaft is coming out sort of kind of through your chin? Whereas if you focus more on your hands moving around, the club would come out more underneath your left shoulder. Okay, and that's it in a nutshell. Just focus a little bit more on what your hands are doing rather than flipping the club head. Alright buddy, good stuff. Lots of practice drills, and I'll look forward to your next video.